thinking about the labor heroes of excellence, wondering why they seem to be so much more successful than those today? Pause, think about it with intentional thought, and consider where we go from here. Stay tuned and hear what Athama Bowe got to say about how the power of hospitality makes all the difference.
Something to think about with Dale Happy Knowles. What we think, we become. What we radiate, we attract. What we imagine, we surely can achieve. Let's change the narrative, 242.
Welcome to Something to Think About with Dale Happy Knowles. This evening we have here the Honorable Mr. Hospitality, Athama MD Bowe. You know, he gonna have to tell us what MD stand for these days, but he don't put dots between those names. He always put them together, so they have some significance, I'm assuming, you know, as we go there. So welcome, sir. I see you were going on a journey down to some other place to click on our next link to go wherever around the world and come back here. And so we do apologize to you 242 for the late start. But you know, we are here, live in living color, just here to serve you tonight. Welcome, Senior
Thank you
Bowe.
very much. Thank you very much. I went by the dock to the mailboat. I was gonna just jump on the mailboat and go to Cat Island, but I said no. Let me stick with Dale Happy. Okay.
Yeah. We won't go Cat Island, but you know that's when rake and scrape time. That's the time I won't go. I don't. But actually I won't go rake and scrape time when all them people are in there. Because you know I ain't no big crowd person. But you know, all the goodies of Cat Island, the food, camaraderie, and all that kind of stuff. You still just miss that. Once you get there, you'll be okay. At least for me, it's just me. The thought of me going and getting all caught up with hustle and bustle. That's the part I don't like. Yeah, man. So how was your day, sir?
My day has been fantastic. One of my wonderful friends from Arthurstown called me today to let me know that they're here. They brought me 3 dozen flower cake, some Brazilita bush for me to make tea. And then they were telling me, but they had to pass the. I said, no, don't tell me nothing but no graveyard, okay? But I was appreciative of the flower cake and the Brazilita bush. I'm gonna make me some tea tomorrow.
Awesome. Well, you know, we're gonna talk a little bit about some good things that happened in our country over the years. You know, and we're gonna start from the 42? Not 40, yeah. 42, yeah. So, but you know, before that, there was a lot of activity in this space, and you had people like Caesar Brown and some other persons who agitated, and now we come down to the last mile. So you know, those things happen over many hundreds of years, and we come down to the last mile leading up to majority rule, which I think is the pivotal date, milestone in our country, that many things became anew. It's almost like, you know, those fellas when they say they get saved, and all of a sudden they could see clearly. Well, the Bahamas could see clearer after majority rule. And so you would have been at the foot or running behind the foot when the boys got the whistle down the street. And you know how they used to travel down the street. The whistle used to travel down the street, and then everybody know that's time to come. And then you had persons like Sir Lyndon and the rest of those, Randall and so forth, would be leading the charge. And, you know, you mightn't have been front and center as you are today, but back then, you know, you would have been tagging along. And so there would have been some benefit to you that you would have gained the wisdom just by osmosis, and then later on, you had some specific activities. And so we want to touch on some of those things and find out why these leaders of yesteryear, hospitality was such a great thing for them, make them successful, and our guys today are losing out. We losing out on the fact that we don't want to talk about hospitality, or they don't understand it. All of those kind of things we want to talk about. So let's get rolling. And first of all, I want you to define what is labor, because we got this Labor Day just celebrated, and some people, young people I was talking to yesterday, they don't, they didn't follow why we make such a big deal. They like the holiday, but they just didn't follow why the big to do over labor.
Well, uh, it's unfortunate that our young people are not fans of the book and history. They need to really understand where they came from, how they got here, so they can have an appreciation for what they need to do to maintain being number one and to be literally the best. Labor Day didn't start in a vacuum. As a matter of fact, believe it or not, it started with violence. You had Burma Road, the Burma Road riot, which really was the Bahamian workers at that time and construction at the airport facility. Um, they they were underpaid when compared to the white workers doing the same jobs, and they agitated and between the colonial office and the local politicians. They weren't hearing none of that, and our people were known to be docile, and I suppose docile meant you could take advantage of them. And the pot boiled, so to speak, and on that fateful day, June 1st, 1942, enough was enough, and they formed themselves into first a group of rabble rousers, and then they became more focused, and they decided that, well, if you ain't gonna pay us, we're gonna get your attention. We break up everything in sight, and so they proceeded towards town, which was Bay Street, and the police did their best to contain them, but the police had never seen Bahamians so agitated and violent, with wood club, rock. I'm sure there's edge tool involved, and they were going smashing and destroying as they went.
So before you
You had
continue, you could fix your camera, please. You coming off camera.
yes, okay.
Yeah, good.
I'm sorry, yes, and they were fortunate to have had, that is the government at the time. A British detail was here. They were billeted here, and they were requested to help to quell the disturbance. The ensuing entanglement resulted in 4 Bahamians being martyred, in that they died for workers' rights, and others were injured. I mean, seriously injured. They eventually got a shilling each on their paycheck,
Wow.
which was nothing much to talk about. And naturally, that festered. Later on in time, the concern of and for laborers became more focused, and attention was paid to it, because the laborers represented a political constituency. Whoever could secure their support really would have been head and shoulders above the others. And Ralph Fox.
Oh boy, so we lost Brother Bowe just a second. I'm sure he'll be back shortly. and we can continue on with the interview. And so he was talking about what happened back in 1942 when we had what we call the Burma Road Riot, which was, as he indicated, would have been the scenario where we had workers on an airport project, and what was happening was that the domestic workers, the Bahamian workers, or persons who were local to the Bahamas, because we were under British rule at the time, then they were being paid less wages than the foreign persons who were brought in to work on the project. And as he's indicated, that they would have had beef with that, and it's only but so much somebody could take, and got to a point where they became agitated and started to break up the place and so forth, make things much more of a scenario where we would just be working to try and make life better and pay for everybody as we go along. And so we welcome you back, Mr. Bowe.
Yes. I tell you, I was navigating space to get to you.
Yeah,
so what I'm
but your
saying,
camera going again, man. What happened with this camera? You keep sliding
what
off the
happened
screen.
is,
Yeah.
I think what is happening is I may be listening more to you and forgetting that you need to see me.
Oh yeah. People must
Is
see
that
you.
better?
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yes, very
Okay.
much better. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Okay, that ain't a move now. That's the Cat Island move. That ain't a move. Okay, so Randall Fox came along and he basically put a story to the then Bay Street Boys to recognize the value of workers, and he put them into a political stupor. They thought that he was introducing them to something real wonderful, and that they would be seen as heroes. And they said, yes, sure, we love the workers to know that they're important.
Right.
And then a year later, he came back. This time when he came back, he said there should be a Labor Day set aside. It was then that the UBP understood that, wait a minute, Fox putting a whammy on us.
Mm-hmm.
It went to the House, it went to the upper chambers, and it got stuck up there. And it took all his Fox brilliance to further confuse the UBP. And in the Senate, it was tie with Brennan sort of holding out. Well, Fox went back to the UBP and told them, look, you all can't let this happen. Your legacy is being threatened, da, 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 da. And they said, okay, whatever, give them the day. And so you ended up with Labor Day. Randall Fox was a master strategist. He knew how to play that industrial relations game well.
Mm-hmm.
And so from that point on, the worker got more attention from the PLP, who was the emerging power then, and the rest is history.
Mm-hmm. Cool. So when we look at that, this Labor Day was actually formally put in place in what year?
Well, it was about it was 1961 or so.
In the 60s, right? Okay. So
yeah.
We still was before we got to become a nation, right?
Yeah,
so,
and before women could vote,
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Okay. So we asked the question here in terms of, you already mentioned why they became angry and beloved on the situation. So when we go down the road now and we look at the actions of the workers, how did the British see that? Because you mentioned, and I want to put the context as to what our government system was like. You said the Bay Street Boys. So Bay Street Boys are homegrown people. And so then you had the British government, the British rule, who had a governor here. I think he still had a governor at that point. Yes. So put context on that. So
Well,
as to
you
how it
had
operated.
you well you had the colonial masters,
Okay.
okay, and the colonial masters were the British connection between England and the Bahamas. We did not have internal self-government.
Mm-hmm.
And the PLP had become a party, an official party in 53. The UBP followed suit in 58. And the UBP was still feeling around with party politics, whereas the PLP had already mastered it. They had a lot of good, excellent coaching on that from their colleagues in the Caribbean.
Mm-hmm.
The UBP began to hear foot tracks of the PLP coming behind them.
Mm-hmm.
There was agitation then for women to vote, which came up later in 62. And it was felt by the Black Bahamian that finally they'd get rid of the UBP. But you can't ever go to sleep on the UBP because there's an old saying, they know how to pay to play. So they had all the moves, and even though the PLP felt they had the numbers, at the end of the day, with gerrymandering and everything else, they still managed to the UBP managed to hold on in 62. Of course, that luck nearly ran out in 67, and it did in 67, and in 68 the PLP went after it full blast and really dominated the political landscape.
Election. Okay. Mm-hmm. Cool. So in that movement, then you talked about the workers being agitated and breaking up the place, and so if I remember right in the stories, I was always told that the British soldiers had to take heed, and they might have even been instructed or commanded in the soldier in the military to actually shoot to kill if things got too far out of the way. So, what was the British soldiers' impact on the situation there?
Well, the British soldier, the image of a British soldier was awesome. As a matter of fact, if you really study our early history, Black Tuesday, they had a backup group at an East Street at the headquarters, and the English supervisors of the police at that time. I think we have to give them some credit because they were asked to suppress Black Tuesday participants, to go there with those ricoch shields and truncheons and mash up the town, or crack some heads.
Right.
But I understand that one of the senior English commanders said, no, listen, let us leave Bank Lane and go back to headquarters, because the sight of them appeared to be agitating the crowd even more. And it would be good for some historians to look at that, because they moved away, went up East Street, and eventually Penling and the other political leaders were able to redirect the energy to go to Southern Recreation Ground. And the people just basically, huff and puff, but they went to the Recreation Ground, listen to some more speeches, have some pineapple soda, champagne soda, and Coca-Cola and sausage and bread and calm down and get ready for the main event.
Right. Okay. So what I want you to do now is to tell us about these people and how did they actually impact uh, things here.
You talking about the labor leaders?
I'm talking about these specific ones on the screen here. The Albert Street, Potato, Stubbs, Joseph, Joe, Billy, Roll, etc. Those persons
Yeah, well,
that
yeah,
mm,
Albert Stubbs, who's known as Sweet Potato. Interestingly, that's the same name that I used to hear at the First Baptist Church down in Market Street. Sweet
mm,
Potato. Earl Francis used to call his their wife my sweet
okay.
potato. But anyway, uh, um, Lawrence Giant Green and Joseph Joe Billy. Uh, um, they were killed. They were
Oh,
martyred.
okay. Hmm.
Yeah. And there were four of them. And I actually believe that the labor movement need to find a way to memorialize those four um, martyrs for laborers. It is not
Hmm.
good enough for us to every now and then miss and say something about it. We are a nation now. We should have the integrity, the pride, the confidence, like they do in other countries, to put up statues, etc., of these men
Hmm.
who they didn't come out there to die, but they said, "Well, I will die for freedom and for rights," and that
Right.
is significant. Today, when we look at what's happening in our country, we're saying that we need more men who would stand up and be committed to building a far better Bahamas for our children born and unborn, and
Hmm.
and and not having anything to do with what color your t-shirt is, but it just so happened that the party that supported the worker, the common man, the little man, was always the PLP,
Hmm.
because out of the belly of poverty came great men and women. All of them had a proximity to the challenges in our social order. And I must say this: we have a rich history, Dale.
Hmm.
Um, we don't have to imitate nobody. Nobody.
Hmm.
Play your own music, have your own culture, speak your own patois, and that's fantastic.
Right.
And when we go about trying to be the boy in the hood and stuff like that, that don't do us any good. And I'm happy that we're now straightening up. We're we're loving our own music more, our dance, and the rest of our culture.
Hmm. Right.
Only us is have funerals like we do. There's none like a good funeral. The setting up, you have like the worst coffee and tea you ever could taste, and then out come that good sauce and everything else, and then the following day you go to the church, cry your heart out, leave the graveyard, and go to the biggest party that ever you had in the name
Hmm.
of the deceased.
Hmm.
That's part of our culture, all right?
Right.
And as we come now to uh, the economy or the economics of labor, that's another story that we now must pay attention to,
Right.
because it is fantastic to have uh, um, the benefits from investors, and that's how we live and progress in the Bahamas, by attracting people who want to invest in our country. Tourism is a labor-intensive business where you need a lot of people to do what you have to do. What we as Bahamians need to do is qualify ourselves, and our leaders must ensure that Bahamians are in places of influence, not places of number. So we don't need to concentrate on, we have 10. We want a Bahamian in that position that makes the decisions, that determines how many other Bahamians will move up the ladder. Because in the world of industry relations and management, sometimes the strategy is to promote persons who you could complain about. And you want them there so you can say Bahamians can't do this and they can't do that. You want that particular type. And no, we now reach the stage where Bahamians can do anything that anybody else can do. And we can do it better.
Yeah.
We are as good as their best.
Yes, always. So when we look at that, then how have Bahamian nationalists continued to advocate for fair working conditions, standards, elevation, salaries over the years, etc., as you just spoke, and so forth. So we'll be in position of to take the reins of our own nation and steer it in the direction we want, or how the national anthem says we should be steering it.
Well, it started on the heels of Randall Fox. Individuals came along and they saw the need for leadership in various occupations. You notice the big ones.
So people would know.
You notice the big ones.
Names so people would know who they are.
Right, I will, but the unions really started to live and breathe in places like BEC and in construction and the hotel business. And as you just suggested, I'm gonna, and researching this has been it has been a delight and a challenge because, mango season is in now. And I love mangoes, so I had about 6 mangoes in the freezer. I took them out, let them start to thaw, and then every now and then I had one, and that gave me a lot of impetus to continue. Keith Archer, Cadwell and Bristol. Keith was in communications, and Cadwell and Bristol was in the airline business. Both of them were ferocious defenders of workers' rights in those areas. A. Leonard Archer. A. Leonard was more of a teacher, intellectual. He had that profile, extremely intelligent and talented. Pat Bain, he was a hospitality a specialist, and he was in the hospitality business. It's a pity that he passed so soon because he had just begun to truly be as great as he could have been when he passed. And there was Idina Burroughs. Some people question and say, well, what about the women? Trade union business, you either got it or you ain't got it. So the women that got it, you'll hear the names mentioned, Idina Burroughs and William A. Bridgewater. And then, interestingly enough, my research got me to Janet Boswick, and she was she was a brain thrust behind the scene. She knew how to organize things. And as a result, I'm sure you saw put that type of strength in her social and activism joining. You had Thomas Bastian and Bartholomew Bastian. That was an uncle and nephew. One was in the tourism industry. As a matter of fact, both of them were in the hospitality industry. The uncle he spent his last years actually working in the Ministry of Tourism in the hotel regulation, licensing department. Quite a gentleman. Then you had Frank Carter. Frank Carter, gosh, if you think Randall Fox smooth, you should try Frank Carter. Frank Carter came out of the airlines, but he became a consultant to other unions also because he was that good. You had Thaddeus Darling, Solomon Campbell, and Henry Dane. Henry Dane, who was he was a airline trade unionist. I remember him in my rookie years at Bahamas Airways. He was quite a firebrand. I remember he and Henry Woods, Woody. Henry and Woody used to have a go at it, you know. You had Hugh Douglas and Charles Fisher. Charles Fisher was at the Bahamas Musicians Entertainers Union in Nassau Court. And you had then Obie Ferguson. Obie Ferguson and I crossed paths in college. When I was coming in, Obie was leaving. And they asked me if I knew someone named Obie Ferguson. Well, I really didn't. Once he said that that's a Bahamian, I had to say yes, because I didn't want them to feel they could talk bad but no Bahamian. So I said yes. And they said, well, you remind us of him. Me? I mean, I just reached and I already remind. Well, I knew what they meant. Obie had a persona that was infectious. He had a get it done type. And he was very proud being a Bahamian. And so I was delighted to know that I'd been tagged in his persona, so to speak. Then you have Randall Fox, of course, and you have Robert Farquharson. Robert Farquharson of Farky, he was a interesting person. And of course, he moved from the Batelco environment into working as an administrator for government in that area. And he's really strengthened his legal capabilities. And today he's a fantastic consultant.
Right. Director of Labor at one point, yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. D. Shane Gibson. D. Shane Gibson, I always smile when I call his name because I met him. I was in Paul track going over to Mr. Rolls' place for a meeting, and I saw Shane. I had always heard about him, and I saw him, and he said, "Hello," and I said to him, "You are Shane Gibson?" And he looked at me like yes, like what next? I said, "Well, look here, make up your mind and go this way, not that way." Now what I meant was, I thought that because that's a real political season then, that somebody was hanging around him, trying to help him make up his mind to go left or right. And I was telling him, no matter what you're thinking, go that way. Which eventually he did go that way. Okay. You have Reginald Grant. Reginald Grant was a trade union executive, a hardworking one, knew his business. He became an executive in Bahamas Air. As a matter of fact, when I was seconded to Bahamas Air, I replaced him, and he went up in the upper house, so to speak, of Bahamas Air. Quite a fine fellow. Both of us were members of the Anglican Churchmen, so we got along very well. You know, all I have to say, the Lord be with you. And he said, also with you. And And that's the end of that. Bobby Glinton. Bobby Glinton was such a, you couldn't think that Bobby was such a ferocious trade unionist because he came across as a charming gentleman, always so, but he was hell on wheels, you know? Yeah, of course, he had his good partner who I will mention in a bit. You had Leroy Duke Hanna, and Duke Hanna was of the Musicians and Entertainers Union, and he had that Small Hope label, you know? The one song that he could sing well was Small Hope, you know? And David Knowles. David Knowles is the other bookend to Bobby Glinton. They just were like, like twin. They did it right, you know? Clement Maynard, a lot of persons are not aware that Clement Maynard was a trade unionist, and he helped to form the union, which Arlington Million promoted, and Arlington got me to become a shop steward at tourism, and nearly got me in a bunch of trouble. And I say that smiling because when a lot of persons were intimidated. They said, well, you know, if you join the union, something may happen. I say, yeah, give me the paper. So I signed it. Next day, I got called in and, why did you do this? And I said, well, you know, I understand that the minister formed that particular union, and if the minister formed it, I can be in it too. So, okay. Of course, that was a strategic statement, and I meant it. And tourism became a member of a particular union. Charles Rodriguez, not too many persons know of him. He had his business on Mark Street, across from Taylor Street. He had that Cuban look. He was a real gentleman, and he was into the trade business. You have R.F. Anthony Roberts. Now, everybody talks about Randall Fox, but they did not know that Fox secretary was R.F. Anthony Roberts. And Mr. Roberts once told me that, you know, that Randall was a strange fella. Sometimes he used to make some commitments and then leave the coop. And when the people come, they meet him, and it was a matter of, could you jump from a two-story porch? You know? And those moments. So after he became a member of parliament, a cabinet minister, a diplomat, a priest, and he served as a member of the Carmichael Police Consultative Committee, which I chaired. He served for almost 5 years. A joy to work with him. Then you have John Pinder.
John Pinder.
Huh?
Okay. You said John
Hello?
Pinder. Yeah, you better now. It's better now.
Yeah, John Pinder. Huh?
No, go ahead. You go ahead.
I didn't hear. Yeah, John Pinder. Yes, John Pinder. And one of the real youthful pioneers, Philip Smith. Philip Smith was the bookend to Cadwell and Bristol. It was almost like ebony and ivory. Philip, you know, had that Long Island look, and Cadwell had that Cadwell look. Okay. But they were dynamic, and they had a wonderful team, you know, and they did a lot for the workers. And Sam Stubbs. Now, Sam Stubbs was the trade union movement in the Bahamas what Drew Bundy was boxing for Muhammad Ali. Muhammad Ali. So
Right.
whenever they decide to do something, they bring Psalm Stubbs to pray and to sing, and everybody get fired up and they go and achieve their objective.
Mm-hmm.
All he wanted to sing was his eyes on the sparrow, and I know he watches over me. And then you had Dudley Williams. Then Dudley Williams, whose son Montez, and Montez used to be at St. Gregory's down here in Carmichael with Sebastian Campbell, Canon
Mm-hmm.
Sebastian. And now he's gone up to Epiphany with Carl Brennan, and used to be Carl Spencer. So the three of them used to run the church. And when I say run the church, of course,
I
uh,
know what you mean. Mm-hmm.
Father Atma Budu, he would give them instructions, and whatever he said, they'll do. And they have
Right.
now a beautiful church up there.
Mm-hmm.
Um, El
Yes, Buffalo
Gathright.
Bill that. Mm-hmm.
Now, El Gathright is a uh, he has a he has stories to tell. He's fearless. He was fearless, and he was very much involved in the political movements of the time. Um, I remember he was very helpful in getting Ray Miners Jr. his job at the Ministry of Sports when he stopped boxing. Ray came to me to see what I could do, and I told him, I said, listen, it ain't like that now. It's them. So I told him to go and speak to El Gathright. He could tell him that I sent him, and he said Gathright took care of him, sent him to Bulgy Allen, and he was a consultant for boxing for years and years. May his soul rest in peace. And Mabel Walker, you hear that name, Mabel
Oh yeah.
Walker. Well, she
Mm-hmm.
was involved in the trade movement, the trade movement also. And Belinda Wilson. Now,
Belinda
Belinda's
Wilson. Yeah.
perhaps, huh?
No, I was saying Belinda because your internet broke up, so I was just saying it so people would know who you said. Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Belinda is a live forever firecracker. You know,
Mm-hmm.
she ain't leaving out. She can say something so you could know that she's saying something, because she can say something so you could know that she's saying something. Okay,
Mm-hmm.
and she's been good for her workers, our members, and the teachers union made tremendous strides. And
Mm-hmm.
they put some wonderful people in the country as a whole. Zane Lightborn, who is now in politics, uh, um, was a member of that particular union. And
Mm-hmm.
so the union did well. These unions developed the leadership qualities of many of the persons, because many of them moved up and out into businesses and so forth and so on, and did
Right.
well for the country and for themselves. I'm just trying to make sure I don't miss out
All right.
anybody.
So whilst you think
Um,
about them, then
Clifford Darling,
yeah.
can't miss him out.
No. Nope.
Can't miss him
No.
out. He was a cab driver, and he was instrumental in that the blockade of the airport,
Right.
when the cab drivers took all their keys and gave it to two cab drivers, and they disappeared, and nobody could have moved the cars because the drivers said they don't know where the key went. And of course, he ended up in government house as a governor general, a wonderful person.
Mm-hmm.
Sorry, yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, so I'm saying I let you go through all of those names so people would know, and this is not all inclusive list. There's many more who are out there who have made a big contribution to our labor movement in the Bahamas. But one of the persons that I think, or I consider to be one of the greatest laborers of all, you didn't mention, and that is the great Sir Lyndon Oscar Pinland. And people might not think of him in that light, but when we look at Sir Randall taking and leading the labor movement in the Bahamas for many, 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 many years, in particular from a union point of view, and then Sir Lyndon came along, and he and the PLP took the last mile, and so I equate that to like LeBron and Dwayne Wade and LeBron and Kyrie and LeBron and AD, whereas LeBron carried the load for many, 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 but when it comes down to the crunch time of the game, it isn't LeBron, it is actually the Kyries and the AD and the Dwayne Wades who won the games for them. And so I see Pinland as being the closer who brought in the majority rule and so forth. But he
Well,
also took advantage and told the people when he joined, when he won, and he became that busboy. And so tell us about that scenario, because that was impactful. And, you know, he had more impact on all of the laborers to me than any one of these that you mentioned individually. Yeah.
well, two things. One, first of all, I would equate Sir Lyndon more to the coach of the Lakers. While he could not play up to the skill level of his players, they could not win without his brilliance as a manager. Sir Lyndon was a person who he never gave you what you call advice. He'd ask you, what is it that basically concerns you?
Mm-hmm.
Then he says to you, what do you think would happen if you do nothing? And then you say, this would happen. Okay, so you know, if you do this, that'll happen. And then you do this, that'll happen. Yes. Okay, I think you got the answer. Now, the thing is, should whatever happen, you can't say he gave you bad advice.
Right.
Because he gave you the opportunity to analyze, rationalize for yourself, and to develop your confidence and your self-esteem, which many of our people need to do, you know?
Right. Mm-hmm.
Now, the second part you were asking me, I'm sorry.
Yeah, no, I was just saying about how he would have been, you know, in the forefront and his impact on laborers as a whole, and he took the stand of actually becoming a busboy for a day, I think it was. At least that's what I remember. The buzz around the
well, you know,
the time. Yeah.
Yeah. The government now, the Ministry of Tourism, the DPM Minister of Tourism, is developing a message program that tourism is everybody's business.
Mm-hmm.
That is a wide tent, and it takes in many considerations. I remember that back when I was involved in such a program of making sure that Bahamians understood that tourism was our lifeblood.
Mm-hmm.
And that is what is important to us. You know, just about every business in the Bahamas has some proximity to tourism and hospitality. I believe that the direction of the Bahamas, and I'm speaking now in terms of policy, is to ensure that Bahamians, the culture, the spirit of a Bahamian is injected in everything that happens in our business.
Right.
This is no longer the days of the Dundas where you have maids and whatever, etc. We can recall maybe 40 years ago when we could remember or recite the names of about 30 Bahamian leaders in the hospitality industry.
Mm-hmm.
And today, we may be challenged to do that. And we must ensure that we return to that. We're not speaking about Bahamians to work in a cruise ship as a waiter and all this sort of good stuff. We're talking about we need Bahamians that can study the marketing philosophy, the marketing strategy, the marketing program of cruise lines and the cruise business. We are educated enough, exposed enough, capable enough, and we are at the level now where we are as good as anybody else. We don't need nobody holding us up anymore. We don't have to wait till Christmas or New Year's. Like the song say, we ready now.
Yeah.
And whether it's as an employee or consultants, as a matter of fact, we have a number of talents who are ready to be consultants. And one thing we have to be aware of, you're not going to get support to have Bahamians as consultants unless you push it.
Yeah.
Because if you say,
Like I was gonna say, but
hello?
if you look at this whole thing though, tourism is fine, and to say what the minister and DPM those are saying, but in my view, it's hospitality that is key. Because to me, hospitality is bigger than tourism. Hospitality goes across the board, and it's because we are straying away from being hospitable to each other. Is why
Well,
we're not getting the things that we that those, and particularly those leaders like I mentioned, and so Lyndon was one of the greatest at it, and some of those that
yes,
you mentioned, even though they were fireballs, the way they loved one another. Yeah, they went to battle when it's time to go to battle in between the lines, but other than that, there was that spirited relationships that was built, and that's why
yeah,
people followed you, because people are gonna follow you if they don't think that you have their best interests at heart, right? And I think I see
sure.
that missing, particularly go into a store. I went into a store to get lunch, and the way the person talked to me, I walked out and they asked me why I walked. I said, I'm not eating from somebody who treated me like that, right? Kind of thing. So that is part of the picture. And so Reverend Peter Ferguson defines hospitality as the direct and personal act of welcoming love, care, or provisions given by one Christian to guests or strangers, whether they are Christian or not, right? And I think
Yeah.
we to the point where
Well,
you be red or you be yellow or you be this or you be that, and it's all transactional. It's no longer just be unconditional love for one another.
yeah.
So what you say to
But
all of that? Yeah. Mm-hmm.
dear happy, just let me say this to you first, and you have to bring me back to this area of the difference of tourism and hospitality. We have some fundamental challenges.
Mm-hmm.
Number one, from where I sit, and I'm a tourism and hospitality specialist. Okay,
Right.
that is me. When I came along, the product of the Bahamas was sun, sand, and sea.
Right.
And I, at that stage in my career, I said that can be so. And they said, why not? Our agency in New York said so. And I felt that, listen, um, everybody in the Caribbean got sun, sand, and sea. So
Mm-hmm.
if they got the same sun we got, and basically saying whatever. So there must be something else that is distinguishing about the Bahamas. And over a period of time, through studies and exposure and stuff, I recognize that the one feature that the Bahamas had and has that nobody else has and cannot have is the qualities, the characteristics of our people.
Mm-hmm.
We are the only people that I see who can take a perfect stranger and in half an hour to an hour, they have them basically eating out of their hands and doing whatever they recommend.
Mm-hmm.
That is developing product loyalty. The other thing we need to understand is we speak about service, but we need a national definition for service.
Mm-hmm.
Everybody has an understanding of what service is to them.
Right.
But the service meaning must be the same, understood by all of us. Now, it may be applied differently, but it must be known. We don't have that.
Okay. Mm-hmm.
The next is that we need hospitality leaders, not because you're in charge or a leader, but people who have the brand, who have the capacity to inspire people to be all they can be. We need that because when you see staff not being what they should be, it's easy to send them home and fire them. To me, no, leave them alone and find their boss. Because staff are usually replicas of their bosses. You show me staff who rude and stuff, and I could show you a boss who don't communicate with their staff, who don't try to mold them, sensitize them. Giving people orders and then you sit back for expectations, that will not work.
Mm-hmm.
Now, tourism, the difference between tourism and hospitality. Tourism is the business of moving from one place to another for any number of reasons, which can be for your health, your enjoyment, curiosity, and all sort of stuff. And that's the big picture. Hospitality is that part of the tourism business that deals primarily with accommodations, entertainment, activities, so forth. So that's a segment. Now,
Right.
we Bahamians, and we've had Bahamas for years. And at one time, I used to be in charge of that. Every now and then I get stopped. Mr. Bowe, when you come in to lecture to us, well, it ain't up to me. Okay, it's not up to me. I will do it anytime. But the powers that be, they must utilize the assets which they have access to. Human skills don't come about just because you say I'm going to train you. The best people are persons who have the aptitude. They are born with the capacity to take care of people. You could train people and them grin, and all you do is look at somebody and say, she looks good, she's pretty, but she's, or he looks handsome. No, they must have that. And the attitude comes from the exposure which they may have. Sometimes you got a real good employee come to the job, and after they would have been exposed to the inconsistencies on the job, the slackness and stuff, they lose something. And then number two, we must not train our people. We must not train out of our people what is our serving Italian meals or that's that. But we don't want to cause a person to evolve into an Italian or Frenchman or whatever. We want our staff to be capable, still inspired, Bahamians who, and I always say it, who are as good as the best in the world or better.
Right.
And that will take the attention of the Ministry of Tourism must ensure that it monitors the training program of every hotel, all of their brands, all they should have that on their desks and follow their development program. I don't want you to tell me nothing. Show me who do you have for this position now, and what is the timeline to get them to that level. If you don't do that over a period of time, I can assure you, you will not have what you'll call your repeat factor will be negatively impacted because Bahamians are better sellers of the Bahamas because the Bahamas is them. I'm not advocating excluding anyone. We need the partnership. We could have a partnership. We should have it. However, tourism is meant to benefit our people. And the Prime Minister said it well. He's going to ensure that the benefits of the hospitality industry, tourism industry, reaches our people. We have to look at the Surreys. Do we have Surreys, or we have horse in the carriage, or do we have buggies? Make up your mind which one you gonna have, and then those owners need loans so they can upgrade their vehicles. Then see that they get it. Though the glass bottom boat operators, we need to evaluate them to ensure that they have boats which can carry their customers comfortably in a classy fashion. We should now be able to sail from Prince George Dock to Cable Beach one way by boat, and come the other way by taxi. So we have the creativity. And of course, Dale Happy, we have to find a way to put 2 floor show clubs, nightclubs in New Providence. Not on Paradise, 2 on New Providence. They could name one Cattonville or one the Silver Slipper, but we need that. And we need one in Grand Bahama. We cannot exist without appropriate activity at our major destinations. We need to look at domestic tourism. Domestic tourism has tremendous potential. How do we get the air rate down? Too expensive to go to the family islands.
But all these things you're talking about, Athama, the union officials could affect these things to happen because they carry a lot of clout. And so if they don't have the see, and you mentioned hospitality in the context of tourism, and that's fine for us to just narrow it to tourism, and then because that's your expertise, etc. But hospitality goes beyond tourism because it goes wherever we go, right? And so if these union persons who are not even in tourism per se, as an industry, they could be dealing with only Bahamians. And so if they're only dealing with Bahamians, that's not really tourism. So my thing is that, but it's their hospitality that allowed them to cause people to want to follow them to achieve goals that they sought to achieve, the causes they sought to achieve. And so now we have all these causes today. You mentioned all these things just now. They are all different causes that somebody might want. Where are the union leaders in affecting this change, agitating and causing the government to think twice about letting these things just sit, putting in place the proper framework so that people can actually implement these things? Because it's good for DPM to sit there and visualize these things, but it's not just the government alone who's going to cause these things to happen, right?
I agree with you, Dale. You know, Rome wasn't built in a day. That's what they said then. Today, Rome could be built in a day because they'd sit in front of a computer and they would bring up a plan, a design, and in 15 minutes they got Rome already restructured. I've said that
Right.
to say this, that we need to have the vehicles where we could have continuous dialogue with partners that work that work within the industry that make it successful. The trade
Mm-hmm.
unions, the vendors, the government ministries, all of them have vested interests in the success of tourism. You know, I
Mm-hmm.
think we spoke off camera some time ago about a view which I've had for years. We need to have a tourism and hospitality quality assurance authority.
Yeah.
We cannot
Mm-hmm.
have tourism as the lifeblood of our country, but we have no mechanism that can evaluate that and deal with persons appropriately. That is, if they're that good, see that they're recognized, compensated, elevated, exposed. And if they're not, we don't need to go to the Ministry of Transport to deal with a cab driver. That authority has the appropriateness and power to deal with that matter there and then. I don't mean be a boogerman or something.
No, 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 fair
But if
enough.
you look
But
at
you know that
Singapore,
goes beyond just before you get to the Singapore one. That goes beyond just the small man, because we have persons who get incentives for these heads of agreements, etc., who are not living up to their heads of agreement, and the same authority as we spoke back then could be the ones to put them in check, right? And so,
right?
you know, the whole national energy plan right now is a rebalancing exercise, and putting
Yes.
things back in order so that people who really should be paying more paid more, and those who are carrying the burden who really don't have the wherewithal to carry that burden get some relief. You know, a lot of people can
Well, you
complain
know,
about it over, but that you have to have the Earth is in a continuous state of rebalancing. So why should
yeah,
people not be? But you were talking the
yeah.
same about Singapore. What you were gonna say
Yes.
about them?
Well, you know, in Singapore, nobody giddy enough using Bahamian language to throw paper out the car window. Because if that's seen, instantly the driver is going to be cited. And you can deal with that today. And Bahamians are not negative people, just wake up in the morning, they're negative. But they're
Mm-hmm.
like anybody else. If there's no consequence, no standard, no inspiration, no
No
continuous
relief.
guidance, people not saying appropriately, thank you, or I saw you do something, thank you. And there must be measurements. And I have this thought about uh, awards and recognition.
Mm-hmm.
I spoke with Charlie Major Jr. the other evening. Somebody must have given him a bag of mango, and somebody tell him in his wisdom he must give me half of his bag of mango. And he called me in the blue, whatever. But it gave us the opportunity to reflect on hospitality industry. And Charlie is one of those early Bahamian executives. He would have been a poster boy.
Mm-hmm.
And I noted that he's not been recognized. He doesn't have a national award. Now, I'm not talking about a national award like we have a trunk full and we give to anybody, but he, based on what you see happening for other people, he more than qualified. And
Okay.
I'm saying that to say this, there must be some consistency. So when you are recognized, you feel like you've arrived. And when
Yeah.
you're not
Mm-hmm.
recognized, you realize you ain't reached there yet. But you don't want to be
Yeah.
recognized with some people who you say, oh man, you know? So my view would be there has to be some review of this happening so that our people truly can say tourism is everybody's business. And I could see what happens to you when you are that good. That's
Right.
all it's
Right.
about, you know.
Yeah.
When you are
And
that good, this happens. When you're not that good, you could complain as much as you like. You ain't ready yet.
Yeah.
You had asked me at another time, um, what would I do? What my vision is? You and I and others, we are in the same group. All right, and we speak to a number of issues of national interest. And I could say this: I've never met a group so talented, qualified, committed to the Bahamas, and who supports the leadership, yes, of the Prime Minister. You know, I make no apologies. Uh, he has the mindset and the focus of the leader that this country needs now.
Mm-hmm.
You have to be able to walk, chew bubble gum, blow bubbles, watch the car so you don't get knocked down, and remember where you live, and remember what you're doing. He does all of that. Like he said, he's him. He's of the Pinland's mindset. And those of us who remember how Pinland did things,
Mm-hmm.
we understand him better when we use that comparison. This country will continue to grow from strength to strength. We have to get parents, particularly men, to stand up and be in charge. Don't let nobody take away your thunder. Uh, um, accept the responsibility that is there. Not you. Don't wait for it to come for you. You see it. If you see it, go get it. And you must be able to do that for yourself, so you can make more money. Do it for your children, and do it for your family.
Mm-hmm.
We are going places. And by the way, I am. We've been talking about tourism is good. It's getting whatever. It's better in the Bahamas. I believe that we are now at the stage where we are beyond it's better in the Bahamas. I ain't say much more about that because I don't want the cat get out the bag before the cat out the bag. But I believe that we are reaching the stage now where the Minister of Tourism is saying we got to go beyond it's better in the Bahamas. And that to me is an inspiration. We have to make it happen. And that truly says tourism is everybody's business, and we have to take our standards beyond
Mm-hmm.
it's better in the Bahamas. Now, what that
And
is,
all they have to do is follow the 5 pillars of something to think about with Dale Happy Knowles. We talk about sunshine,
yes,
sea, digital, and people, right? And
yeah,
Lee Iacocca says that any business is broken down into 3 things: product, pricing, and people. People come first. So when we look at all those 5 pillars on the sunshine and sea, and this is not the traditional tourism sunshine and sea. We're talking about the renewables. We're talking about the marine area. We're talking about the agriculture and stuff like bush medicines and all those kind of other things too. So if we develop light industries and all of those, that's a framework as what could drive everything. And then if
yes,
you have the people being developed, of which hospitality has to be key in that process,
yeah,
then we will have more than the $100 billion economy that something to think about. Um, is is stuck on believing that we can achieve. And we've had other people who evaluated what we put on the table, and they said that we could get to $1 trillion. But I ain't gonna reach that far yet. Let's get to the 100 billion first.
well, I'll
Yeah.
tell you something.
Mm-hmm.
I already feel that tourism is going in that direction, giving our people the opportunity to increase their earning power. The concept of, it isn't just bringing a hotel, a cottage type into the family
Yeah.
islands owned by somebody. Bahamians must be able to buy into that ownership, okay,
Yes.
so that they can help that business grow as they earn. When people know themselves and they're proud of who they are and they engage in what's happening to them, they act differently from somebody who stands around or is made to stand around to take orders. Um, we don't want to develop order takers, grateful people. We want people to show their gifts. God has given our people magnificent gifts. We naturally take care of people. We are naturally tidy. However, because we do not have consequences for people who dirty up their neighborhoods, cause dirt to be every which where, and they have no consequence, then everybody does it. By the way, this is something for you to think about. I'd like to see, and I don't know how legal this is, but the police should be able to, in their patrols, be able to, in their reports, say, look, I work in this zone, and I noticed that there are 123 derelict vehicles and these 8 corners, and they should have the power to either give those persons citation on the property, because you make the police look bad. Here you are jumping over old cars, they committing an offense, and you as a policeman, you can't do nothing about it.
Well,
So
I'm sure they can't
we
do
have
nothing
to.
about it, but yeah.
But I mean, but I mean, be able, but whatever. But the thing is, we need to address it. I believe the time is here. We have the leadership to support it. I'm convinced that we have the leadership and governance and the prime minister to do it. I believe that in terms of the police force, we have a commissioner who already showed us that, look, I take care of the town. Now we know you can't stop people from doing certain things. The only thing you do is after they do it, you can apprehend them. And they have been doing a fantastic job in terms of apprehension. And of course, we are learning too that the perpetrators of these acts are young, old, and females. And so we
Yeah.
need to give all of them something to think about before they do what they do.
Yeah.
And
But that
yeah,
takes
but
building relationships, so and so and when we look
absolutely,
at that, that takes building
absolutely,
relationships. And when we look at
yeah.
that, the government, led by the prime minister, with his able Robin deputy, can build the greatest tourism product that we can run. And it'll be just like buying a Bentley or something like that and having somebody who can drive sit in the chair. And so that's why I'm saying that the key to me is because that motion is already in place of providing the Bentley. That's already in motion. That whether the people allow it to materialize over this term or next term or whatever they choose to do, or switch, that's the people got to decide that. But the machinery is already in place. There's a lot of things happening, but what we need is the drivers. And to me, the union leaders and the union activists, the labor activists, etc., are the ones who have to create that and that those drivers. The government, the labor, and the people are the ones who can cause this thing to 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 explode into something supernaturally positive, like what it did in the first 10 to 15 years under the Finland administration when we had exceptional growth. And so
Well,
what
let me
I'm
say this.
saying is that we
Yeah.
have to do that through hospitality. right?
Yes.
That because you
Yeah,
have
but
to
I was
build
going to,
relationships with people, right?
yeah, I was going to give you a gift, right?
Go ahead.
Um, um, I believe that, and you hit on it, relationships. I'd like to see us, you know, the us I'm talking about.
Yeah.
I'd like to see us meet with the uh, Deputy Prime Minister, Minister of Tourism, and speak to him from where we sit. Because as we go forward and accept a greater ownership and responsibility for what is happening and could happen in our country, we must influence decisions. It ain't good just to stand there and complain. No, we believe in ask not what your country could do for you.
Yeah.
What is it that we can do for our country? Because we look to benefit. We are here and we must make it happen. And I believe that's the type of leadership positivity that the country needs. You know, I'll leave it aside. There were times when I used to go down Meadow Street for that big tree by the Salvation Army. And them fellas sitting up under that tree having lemonade and Kool-Aid. You understand what I'm saying? And when I show up, they say, "Oh, Mr. Bowe." I say, "Yes." I say, "Gentlemen, you all having breakfast this early?" And they look at me like, I mean, I know what's going on. I said, "Now, yeah, this for you all. Somebody go and get a couple sandwiches and come back and bring me my change." And I speak to them just and they go and they come back and they bring me the change. They say, "Now, look, what's your name?" They mention, "Look, I want you. Did you buy anything for them to drink?" "No." "Well, use the change and you all got something to drink because them Kool-Aid and you're drinking have too much sugar in it." And you know, over a period of time, from those environments, to include Mason's Edition and other places, came Gombe dancers who would do anything for the Ministry of Tourism because of the relationship that was built. If they didn't get paid at 9 o'clock, I'd say, "Well, you know, give me a chance to get to the office. Um, um, you'll be paid by 9:15. They must, "Well, we get paid tomorrow." "No, no, 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 no." Okay. And so, because Bahamians are very loyal to each other, what they don't like is people to abuse them. If they call you on the phone, don't duck them. They will hold that in for you forever.
Right. Yeah.
And then they're going to measure, well, how come when I call you don't answer me, but when them people call with blue eyes and blonde hair, you jump out your seat? That can be what happens because we have far too many Bahamians, young and whatever, who are qualified to international standards. They are revered by their colleagues in their particular professions, and they can't come home, be home, and they are minimized. And we have
Yeah.
to give them the opportunity.
You know, and
Truly.
and that's why I'd say that it's I go back to this point that it's really hospitality because it's how we treat one another that is gonna make why people are gonna follow one another into
Yes.
something positive and constructive. And so if we look at that then, and as we wrap up, then what? Tell me or say to the people out there what we have not discussed already. What would you like to say to them about hospitality and leadership, and what we have talked about as a whole? What would you like
Well,
them to take home and resonate with?
number one, this Bahamas is your country. You don't have to uh, figure out if you own it. It is your country. Prepare yourself to be whatever you wish to be in your country. It is possible. The government is making it possible for you to get land, technical support, monies, so you have no excuse. You can believe in yourself. You may feel you're not educated enough. Don't worry about it. Go to BTVI, go to the university, go to some other institution, but expand your brain. One of the things you need to do is remember, if you're hanging out with people who don't want to go nowhere, you're going exactly where they want to go, which is nowhere. The Bahamas has everywhere for you to go. The other thing is to have confidence. The government of the day is your government. You have the right to expect from your government excellence. Now, you don't have no right to carry on like your brain gone missing, because you find a lot of people are disrespectful in their expressions. But you have a right to, yes, to ask questions, to seek accountability, but do so understanding that those people work for you. They work for you. And you can't crime to go away and you buying stolen TV and chains and hiding people things and stuff. No, we need a change. And I'm happy to know that the Prime Minister has developed a relationship with the church leadership, because the church has always been a barometer for us. They were the ones who said, listen, tell us what you need from us. I went on a couple of trips abroad with denominational leaders, and they could sell tourism. And so we need that. We need to learn from expatriates who come to our shores on contracts. And we need to ensure that the information, the experience, the exposure is given to our people. Not we get token individuals. We need Bahamians of substance to be in place. Mm-hmm. I always say this. We are a peculiar people. You know us by the manner of our bearing. We are proud. And you can always look to Bahamians to be the best. And I believe that you give us maybe about a year and a half from here, you will be surprised to see what we are doing. You will be surprised. We need more activities on Bay Street for our people. Once you come as a visitor, in and the door at night, no place to dance. Like yesterday you had the big bamboo and these. You have no authenticity in your nightlife, huh?
All that got to come in the process. Yeah.
Yes. See, but what I'm saying, rather than it got to come, we have to ensure that it's on the table. All the reasons for Bahamians, some Bahamians say, "I'll do it." You understand me?
No, that's what I mean.
Before some,
once the people got to realize that they could invest in the Bahamas again and they can benefit, because a lot of people are lost hope in investing.
Yeah. Well, my best childhood friend, Raphael A. God Mannings, in case you think I don't know what A. God means. He is, to me, he and King Harrison, they are jewels and gems. And we have to know how to use these people. I'm speaking about culture. We must do the same thing for our super athletes, for Shanae and Stephen Gardner. They're supposed to be the Junkanoo king and queen. We may have more than one king, whatever. But that tells them you could run your heart out because your people back home love you that much. We can do it. What we need the leadership. See, the ministers are not the professionals to make it happen, but they need people who, when the minister dreams, they could take the minister dream, his thought, his idea, and bring it to reality. Mm-hmm. And to me, it will get done. Now,
Yes.
who you pulling for in the Olympics anyway?
In the Olympics, I pull for
Yeah.
Bahamians, man. I pull for Clay Thompson in basketball, and I pull for all our athletes who are representing the 242 around the world. That's who I pull for. I
Yeah,
don't
but
pull for anybody else. Yeah, yeah.
I would you average, but I watched that young lady Charlton and them hurdles.
Oh yeah,
Boy,
yeah, yeah, yeah. Mm-hmm.
yeah.
Yeah.
So
But
our
we just pray
athletes.
that she stays healthy. Yeah.
Well, listen.
That is be the thing
Look,
with they
I
don't have
only want to tell you that she.
LeBron James money to spend on stuff. Yeah.
Yeah, but see, her mother spent time in Cat Island, so she's particularly blessed. You
Okay, I
understand
hear
me?
you. I hear you. I
Two
hear you.
trip up Cornwall Hill and she'd be ready to go. Her and Sinead, they get that Cat Island roots.
I will bring you back
And
when they start talking about the cattle and pineapple and beaches. So you could
I
defend,
know so
you could find who got the best beaches in the Bahamas. Yeah.
yeah. But I
Yeah.
got I
So
got a friend what's his name? My good friend Bethel, Merlin Bethel, because he's been
mm-hmm,
calling me now in the last half an hour. He's a Hatchet Bay fella, and he must hear you
mm-hmm.
talking and hear us talking, and he want to tell us about how Hatchet Bay is the prettiest place in the world and all that sort of stuff. Yes, Bethel, I hear you. Okay, but we need to do these things. We have a lot to do. It's pleasurable, and so, dear Lappy, I'd like to ask you to set in motion a meeting with the Minister of Tourism, the Deputy Prime Minister, for Team Brave to meet him.
Mm-hmm.
And we'll take some of these pointers and make our contribution.
I hear you.
Uh,
I'll take on the challenge.
yeah, this the end. I mean, I talking like this. This the end, right?
Yeah. Yeah, I got the
Yeah. So
sign. You gave me
I
the
want
end.
to say,
I don't know. Yeah. Go. You can
okay.
close it up. Yeah.
I just want to say to you, on behalf of Team Brave OPM, thank you so very much for making this time available to us. I can assure you that we will continue to play our part to ensure that all the good and the benefits that this country can produce will go to Bahamians. This is a great day and a great night. Thank you so very much, sir.
You're quite welcome, and we will be looking forward to bringing you back to talk about that how they make the flour cake and all them different things, and not the other stuff that these people just be throwing out to say is out the way, but those type of things. So we'll
No,
be
no,
in
no,
touch.
no, 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 no,
Yeah.
no, 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 no. Don't no graveyard, no graveyard. They don't. No, no, no. You got to
I
bring
know you like
Sebastian Campbell
graveyard.
for that.
Yeah. All right. Well, thank you, sir, and thank you for taking the time. I
You're
know I only
welcome.
took an hour of your time, but hour times plus 33 minutes. I'm sure we will find a way to make that look like an hour, as in our
Yes. Well,
mindset.
thank you.
Yes.
Okay. Thank you very much.
So welcome.
Okay.
Folks, you've been watching Something to Think About with Dale Happy Knowles, and we've had the Honorable Athama Bowe. He didn't want to say what MD is and why he puts the M and the D together and not separate with dots as normal people would do. But he is quite a fellow, character extraordinaire. But he has a lot of ideas on the table, and still, there's a saying that the most productive people in the world are people who are between the ages of 60 and 70. And the second most productive people are people between the ages of 50 and 60. But that is what it is. And one time we will find a way to tap into these people and allow them to function in a different mode, but still provide the wisdom that they have. And so we invite all who have something to offer and share. We will vet you and see, and then if you have something that you could bring to the table, then yes, we will bring you on to the show. And we do it a lot of times based on what the guests are asking for. But we will always talk about something that people are not talking about in the Bahamas. And today we just wanted to talk about hospitality and our leadership, particularly in the labor environment where we just finished Labor Day, and how we had successes, and now the successes seem to be slowing down from that movement. But we are poised with a huge opportunity in tourism in particular, and we look forward to the labor component of tourism to step up to the plate and start to drive some of these things. The government's going to be distracted with all kind of things, but we look for you, Mr. Labor Union leaders, etc., and other activists in the space who may not be in the union, to step up and make things great. So once again, thank you kindly for staying with us. If you found any value in this show, do hit the like button, share, and let everybody know about it, so that we could come back another time, another day, and be able to do the great things that we have been doing so far. Because that's what the people are saying about this show, something to think about with Dale Happy Knowles, that they're very impressed. So just jot your notes down, hit your comments. We don't have to do it on the show. You could do it when you watch it later on. Just do it. Get it out there and let people know, so we could build this Bahama land from strength to strength. Peace out. Till next week.
Enjoyed the show? Then subscribe to us for more educational and inspirational content. Ring the bell so you never miss a show. Let's change the narrative, 242.